Welcome, viewers. When you picture ancient North America, do you see scattered tribes and endless plains? Prepare to have that illusion shattered completely. Long before the Europeans arrived, there stood a magnificent metropolis boasting massive earthen pyramids and bustling streets. This was Cahokia, a thriving native empire larger and more populated than London. But what dark ecological disaster erased this great civilization from the ancient map? Around the year 1050, a spectacular city rose along the Mississippi. It was the beating heart of the Mississippian culture, an era of unmatched prosperity. Thousands of wooden homes stretched across the vast floodplain, buzzing with endless daily activity. At its shining center stood majestic earthen mounds, rising proudly against the ancient sky. The largest of these architectural wonders, known today as Monk's Mound, was truly colossal. It covered 14 acres at its base, built entirely by human hands and woven baskets. Millions of tons of dark soil were meticulously moved without the use of wheeled wooden carts. This fertile river valley provided an abundance of fish, wild game, and incredibly rich soils. Massive fields of green corn swayed gently in the wind, feeding a rapidly growing population. The Mississippi River acted as a mighty superhighway for wealthy native merchants. Massive convoys of wooden canoes transported precious raw copper from the distant northern shores. Beautifully carved shells from the distant Gulf of Mexico were traded for their vital farm goods. The city buzzed with the vibrant energy of people engaging in constant daily commerce. But this overwhelming wealth was not equally distributed among the hard-working citizens. A strict hierarchy emerged, dividing the powerful elite from the common laborers. The mighty paramount chief, known as the Great Sun, ruled with absolute and divine authority. Viewed as a magnificent living incarnation of the sun god, his spoken word was absolute law. High atop earthen pyramids, the nobles lived safely separated from the lower classes. They adorned themselves with shimmering copper ornaments and spectacular exotic bird feathers. Below them, tens of thousands of commoners toiled endlessly in the humid, sweltering heat. The rulers demanded heavy tribute, enforcing a highly structured and rigid society. Massive sacred fires were kept burning day and night, requiring enormous amounts of fuel. Elaborate rituals reinforced the absolute dominance of the powerful ruling class. It seemed nothing could ever challenge the magnificent power of the Mississippian elite. Their cultural influence spread far and wide, uniting distant tribes under a single vision. Yet, beneath this surface of prosperity, fatal cracks were already beginning to form. The success that built Cahokia would soon become the fatal instrument of its sudden ruin. Human ambition, unchecked by nature's limits, always demands an incredibly heavy price. By the 12th century, the population had exploded well beyond sustainable levels. To protect their privilege, the nervous elite ordered the construction of massive palisades. These towering defensive walls consumed astonishing amounts of timber from the nearby forests. Tens of thousands of large oak trees were aggressively chopped down to build this grand separation. The high wooden wall isolated the rulers, creating a dark atmosphere of paranoia. Commoners sweated under the brutal sun, hauling heavy logs to fortify the ruling class. Exhaustion began to visibly plague the workforce, but the constant demands never ceased to grow. Their physical health deteriorated as crop yields struggled to meet the extremely high quotas. Each new layer of earth added to the great mounds required countless grueling hours of punishing labor. It was a dazzling display of architectural might, masking a deeply fragile foundation. The great sun, wrapped tightly in his own divinity, remained blind to the suffering below. But nature has its limits, and Cahokia was dangerously pushing the absolute edge. If you were a desperate laborer starving in the shadow of those majestic earthen mounds, would you dare to rebel against a leader widely believed to be a living, breathing god? The silence of the masses only fueled the dangerous arrogance of the ruling upper class. The first major domino to fall in this tragic collapse was the rapid deforestation. Millions of trees were harvested for grand construction projects and massive ceremonial fires. The surrounding rolling hills were quickly stripped bare, leaving the earth completely exposed to heavy rain. Without the deep roots of the ancient forests to hold the soil, catastrophic erosion soon began. Thick mud aggressively washed down into the rivers and creeks, clogging vital local waterways. The rich farming lands that had sustained the booming population were slowly bleeding away. The second disaster was the devastating overhunting of the surrounding local wildlife. With tens of thousands of desperately hungry mouths to feed, hunters wiped out the native deer population. They had to travel further and further away from the city just to find a single, meager meal. The vital protein supply vanished, severely weakening the physical health of the working class. Desperate men returned from the barren woods empty-handed, staring blankly at starving children. The fragile balance between humans and nature was violently thrown into utter chaos. The third agonizing factor was the sudden exhaustion of the soils where they planted their crops. Corn was their primary lifeline, but planting the exact same crop year after year ruined the dirt. Crucial nitrogen was steadily drained from the ground, leaving the earth hopelessly infertile. Crop yields plummeted drastically, and the sprawling green fields very quickly turned a sickly yellow. Farmers dropped to their knees in profound despair, staring blankly at the deeply cracked, dying earth. The fertile Mississippian basin had been transformed into a dusty, barren wasteland. The rulers performed frantic ceremonies, desperately begging the silent sun god for rain. But history shows that nature is entirely deaf to the arrogant prayers of mighty kings. Malnutrition spread rapidly through the urban slums, severely weakening immune systems. The once mighty laborers could no longer lift the incredibly heavy wooden beams and baskets. The massive expansion of Cahokia came to a sudden and truly devastating halt. As crop failures multiplied, the divine authority of the elite began to crumble. People began to openly question why their living gods could not provide the essential rains. The wooden palisades failed to protect the rulers from the rising anger of their own people. Social unrest simmered beneath the surface of the increasingly desperate and hungry city. If the very land you lived on turned completely against you, what desperate choices would you make? The native culture was trapped in an ecological nightmare entirely of their own making. And then, the final, completely unavoidable blow was struck by the global climate itself. A drastic weather shift plunged the region into a dark period known as the Little Ice Age. Temperatures suddenly plummeted, bringing brutally long and bitterly freezing winter storms. The shortened growing season was totally devastated by unpredictable early frosts. The exhausted soil simply could not produce enough hearty corn to survive the freezing cold. Massive stockpiles of vital food began to rot or rapidly run out, leaving the people starving. The once majestic capital city was plunged into an unprecedented and deadly famine. Bodies piled up in the frozen streets, completely shattering the illusion of urban safety. Driven mad by intense hunger, furious citizens finally rebelled against the elite. The massive wooden palisades, built to offer protection, were desperately burned for winter warmth. The once revered great sun was now abandoned, standing alone upon his freezing earthen pyramid. His majestic feather cape was tragically ruined by the unforgiving winter snowfall. Families packed their meager belongings, choosing the bitter cold over certain starvation. A tragic mass exodus began as terrified refugees fled the dying Metropolis. They trudged silently through the blinding snow, leaving their magnificent ancestral home forever. The intricate social structures and the absolute power of the elite dissolved into nothing. By the late 14th century, the grand plazas of Cahokia were entirely empty. The giant mounds eroded under the harsh winter winds, returning to the wild, natural earth. Without the toil of human hands, the surrounding native forests slowly began to recover. Nature swallowed the forgotten ruins of a civilization that aggressively pushed too far. For centuries, these enormous earthen mounds lay deeply hidden and completely misunderstood. When European explorers finally arrived, they refused to believe the incredible truth. They falsely assumed native tribes were entirely incapable of such massive engineering. Yet the towering earthen pyramids remained as silent witnesses to their former glory. The arrogant rulers who once commanded thousands were completely forgotten by the flow of time. Cahokia's story is a chilling reminder of the fragile balance of our ecosystems. Urban expansion and aggressive deforestation will always lead to severe disaster. When the global climate shifts unexpectedly, no massive wall can offer true protection. The common people suffered the horrific consequences of their leaders' blind ambition. Slowly, the magnificent ancient city was buried beneath thick layers of unyielding dirt. Today, archaeologists carefully excavate these sacred sites to uncover their dark secrets. They discover broken pottery and beautiful shell gorgets hidden deeply within the earth. Analyzing human remains reveals the tragic physical toll of severe malnutrition. The long-held myth of an entirely untouched wilderness is definitively proven wrong. Indigenous peoples were fully capable of engineering massive, complex monuments. They successfully managed vast political networks and highly complex trading systems. However, they shared the exact same fatal flaws as countless other great global empires. The astonishing brilliance of their early success ultimately guaranteed their sudden doom. The majestic Monk's Mound still stands silently today, a powerful monument to human ambition. It forces us to profoundly question the long-term sustainability of our modern world. Cahokia's fall wasn't caused by a brutal war, but by nature taking back its stolen land. Do you think their rulers were blinded by greed, or simply victims of an unpredictable climate? Share your thoughts in the comments right below, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.